Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Here in this video, we will be going over everything you need to know about AMC stock today. Now, I did make a trade on AMC Earnings. This is a trade. I will share it with you here in this video. If you decide to trade this, you will lose all of your money. Or you could, at the very minimum. You have to be prepared to lose any of the money that you put into a short-term trade. To watch that trade go, to zero, essentially. You have to be ready and prepared for that to happen. Now that that disclaimer is out of the way, let's get started. So, there's not actually anything that happened today with AMC specifically. The only thing that you could say is the whole AI FOMO, hopium, bubble, whatever's going on. It's pulling money from other areas of our markets, like an AMC, like a Tesla, like a PayPal or a Square for a long time now. And the money's been concentrated into these AI names and your big tech stocks. And again, that's happening today when SMCI is up 32% or so, when Nvidia is up almost 15%. That's a lot of market cap that needs to come from somewhere, right? And when you're not seeing that many inflows into our markets, if anything, you've actually seen outflows in 2024, then where does that money come from? It comes from these other stocks that are getting sold off to then go, buy into Nvidia and buy into SMCI and push the markets up higher by really just concentrating the money into those big tech names. So that is what happened today. Really, I can't even complain with Nvidia because Nvidia just had good earnings. I mean, a beautiful earnings call. I really can't complain too much with Nvidia. I do personally think the gains are had in Nvidia. I don't think you're going to get outsized returns at this point because after all, if you're investing in Nvidia for AI, which that's pretty much what everyone is doing, I mean, Nvidia is the hardware. What I really like, what are companies going to do with the hardware, I think is a better place to be investing, like a Tesla, maybe full self-driving, or Optimus, or just robots on a large scale. Who knows? But Nvidia is the hardware. I think it's a little bit played out personally at this moment in time, but that does not mean the FOMO could not continue for longer. With that being said, let's take a look at this article that was written yesterday. It says, AMC stock, should you buy before CEO Adam Aron's earnings call? It says, the Wall Street consensus is expecting AMC to report a loss per share of 62 cents for the fourth quarter. Judging by Q4 box office figures, investors shouldn't expect AMC to report pre-pandemic revenue levels yet. CEO Adam Aron has remarked that he has much to say during the earnings call, which could create extra volatility in the stock. It says AMC Entertainment is set to release its fourth quarter, Q4, and full year 2023 results on February 28th after the closing bell. Currently, the market consensus is predicting a loss per share of 62 cents for the quarter. However, that would represent significant 49% year-over-year growth. In addition, Wall Street is expecting AMC to report revenue of $1.03 billion, a nearly 4% increase from the previous year. For the full year estimates indicate AMC will report a loss per share of $1.60, reflecting a notable 73% improvement compared to 2022, and the company was still grappling with the effects of the Roni pandemic. Despite this progress, annual revenue is projected to be $4.74 billion. While that would mark a robust 21% growth, it's still below pre-pandemic levels of just over $5 billion. It's crucial that investors monitor AMC's liquidity and deleveraging efforts. The company has a total debt of $9.5 billion, including $4.8 billion in long-term debt, with $3.1 billion maturing in 2026. That's the important part. $3.1 billion maturing in 2026. 2026 is not too far down the line. I'll be the first to tell you, maybe, if you have not heard this from anyone else, AMC will not be able to pay off their debt by their operations alone. AMC will not generate enough free cash flow to pay off $3.1 billion in debt by 2026. Sorry to break it to you, that's not going to happen. So what does that mean? Well, AMC has to raise capital. If AMC stock is $4 per share, AMC really can't raise capital. They could, technically, but it's not going to do anything for paying off 3.1 billion in debt. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous, right? 3.1 billion in debt. That means AMC would have to sell 775 million shares of AMC at $4 per share. They only got access or rights to sell about 300 million shares. And that would be, massive dilution. I mean, if you in theory wanted to sell the stock at $4 per share, the stock's going to sell for like $2 a share once the actual offering does go through. So, these numbers are terrible, right? AMC really needs the stock at like $20 per share, times that by, let's say, 50 million shares. If they went that route, you'd raise about $1 billion. If AMC could hit $20 per share, AMC would probably be okay and be able to issue enough debt to make a good chunk into that 2026 debt. And then, ultimately be able to pay off their debt. So, maybe they could, get enough free cash flow in the meantime to essentially survive through 2026. But 2026 is going to be a big hurdle. And I think that's why Adam Aron is really stressing. He has a lot to say coming on the company's earnings call. Now, I personally think this means we're going to get a commitment not to dilute shareholders. It's better to do that now than to wait until, let's say, 2025 when it's really crunch time, right? When it's do or die, bankrupt or survive time. You want to get the stock up now because it's going to be harder to do so as you get closer to inevitably defaulting on some of that debt. That's just not a good scenario to be in. So I think what Adam Aron means by he has a lot to say on the conference call that you don't want to miss it is we're going to get a commitment not to dilute shareholders. That is going to give AMC a moment to kind of trade more freely without this dilution hanging over our head. And I think this means AMC stock goes higher. Now, it says throughout 2023, AMC raised $865 million in equity earmarked for negotiating the company's debt and stabilizing its operations. The consensus estimates that AMC ended 2023 with a net debt to EBITDA earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization ratio of 9.7x and an EBITDA estimate of $423 million, an 807% increase from 2022. Annual cash from operations is expected to approach break even, with S&P Global Market Intelligence estimating a $39 million loss for the year. That's a significant improvement from the $629 million loss recorded in 2022. In summary, while Q4 may reflect weaker performance from AMC, the overall picture for 2023 should show progress, particularly in post-pandemic demand and balance sheet strengthening. However, these improvements may not have been swift enough to fully alleviate AMC's challenges or to spark significant market enthusiasm. So essentially, long story short, AMC stock is probably not going to give us the best numbers. So, whether or not the stock actually rises is what Adam Aron, has to say on the earnings call. This says CEO Adam Aron will have, quote, much to say on the earnings call. On his X account, AMC CEO Adam Aron announced the earnings date and said that he has significant updates to share. He said on February 15th, AMC will announce Q4 and full year 2023 earnings February 28th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I realize many of you have wanted my take on what is going on, but the best time to do so is on this year's ending earnings call. Listen to the webcast. I'll have much to say. Says since obtaining the legal approval to convert 8 preferred shares into common shares, AMC stock has plummeted by more than 80%. Despite liquidity challenges and heavy debt, AMC's management team opted to raise capital through equity issuance. Investors are eagerly awaiting clarity on AMC's capital allocation strategy for 2024 and beyond, especially concerning any possible additional equity issuances. While the stock has recently been more closely aligned to the company's fundamentals, Aron's statements could induce volatility in AMC stock, especially considering the recent transition from oversold to bearish trends. Opting for a bullish stance on AMC stock before the earnings call might offer a high-risk, high-reward opportunity driven more by Aron's announcements than by the expected weak results due to the modest Q4 box office performance. Now, I indeed did make a trade on AMC stock, and I'm going to share that in just a moment. The reason why I did make a trade on AMC is kind of what this article just said, that everyone is expecting AMC to have bad numbers. Nobody's expecting AMC is going to come out with some kind of shocking good numbers. Nobody's expecting that. If that happens, sure, that's positive. That's potential upside. But when everyone's expecting really bad numbers, usually just not being as bad as feared is good news. So as long as you don't have some kind of utter shit show disaster, AMC is probably not going to fall based on the numbers alone. Now, I think that does potentially give a little bit of a cushion, right? Because better than feared. Some people, are going to be very fearful right now. Just judging off AMC stock, markets are very fearful of the numbers that AMC could put up. Now, again, the other reason why I did make a trade on AMC, I do think it is a very good risk to reward, high risk, high reward kind of situation that we are set up with. Now, if I am correct and Adam Aron does give us a commitment to not diluting shareholders, I think AMC stock could probably double up from here. And that would be, potentially really good news for AMC stock investors. Now, we don't know if that's going to happen. That's essentially the gamble that I'm making right now. If you agree with that, let me know down below in the comment section. But there's really nothing Adam Aron can say that is going to alleviate anyone's concerns that'll get the stock to go higher. Without a commitment not to dilute shareholders, AMC stock will fall after earnings. Almost a guarantee. Especially now that Adam Aron kind of hyped up there's going to be some kind of announcement. If we don't get any kind of announcement, Adam Aron just gets on there and says, yeah, box office sucks, the strike sucked, and it's just causing AMC to suck. Pass the blame on to other entities and not give us anything concrete or fundamentally accretive. The stock's going to tank on that. The stock's going to fall another 20%, and it's going to be in an even worse position. Adam Aron, the board, they're obviously not equity experts like we are, so maybe they don't understand that. Maybe he's just going to get on the call and rant. Maybe he has a lot to get off his chest. Maybe he's been having a hard time with everything that's happened over the past 12 months or so. Who knows? But if we do get a commitment to not diluting shareholders, I think AMC stock potentially at this point could rally like 50% overnight. That wouldn't surprise me, especially in this marketplace where FOMO is so insane. And, potentially you could see a lot more buying activity into AMC stock. Now, I want to share with you guys the position I made. Again, very high risk, high reward. I am fully self-conscious that I will lose all of this money if I am wrong. If I'm right, I could still lose all of this money. I'm betting that I could lose all of this money. That's the bet that I'm making. I want to be very, very clear. I bought AMC 550 calls expiring by March 8th. So not next week, but the week after that. So it gives me a couple days of next week, right? After earnings. What? They report earnings on, Wednesday. So then you get the 29th and you get Friday, right? So 2 days of next week and then the next week after that to see what happens with AMC following earnings. With AMC trading at $4.39 per share, and these are only 550 calls, yeah, it's like 26% out the money or whatnot. If I'm correct and Adam Aron does give us a commitment not to dilute shareholders, I think these contracts could do very well. I think AMC stock could double from here. I think AMC stock could probably hit $9 per share. These contracts would be worth $350 a piece. I bought 10 of them. I put $200 on the line. These could be 1,000, 2,000% returning options. That's the way that I'm looking at it. Either 1,000% or I'm probably going to lose all my money. I don't think we're going to get a small move because I don't think, the numbers are going to move this stock higher in a substantial way. I don't think Adam Aron ranting on the earnings call is going to move the stock in a substantial way. I don't think, blaming this or that is going to move the stock in a substantial way. The fact of the matter is there's $3 billion of debt coming due in 2026. How are you going to solve that situation? That's it. That's what matters. Adam Aaron maybe could say something that we don't know about. That's always going to be a possibility. I'm not going to bet on that. My bet's a little bit more simple. We get a commitment not to dilute shareholders. What happens then? If we get a 6-month commitment, I'm sure shorts rush to cover on short positions because you don't want to be in a trade that's going against you for 6 months, right? That's not a pleasant situation to be in. And yeah, that's a simple bet here. So we'll see what happens. Very short-term trade, very, very risky trade, but I do like the risk to reward. $200 on it. It's not going to make or break anything, but could turn into a large amount of money if and only if I'm correct. And even if I am correct, again, it might not do much. It really just depends. We need AMC stock to really move. But don't trade that. That's not a recommendation. You will lose all of your money if you do trade that. That's just what I'm personally doing. And, I've been wrong many times. So don't trade that. And if you have a lot of shares, then it really doesn't matter anyways. You shouldn't feel any kind of FOMO to get an option position because you already got a shit ton of shares and that's already going to move, especially if the stock moves big. You'll already make your money. So no harm, no foul there. Now, if we take a look at the option activity today, volume was very good to the call side, 86.31%. And I would expect to see that just given, the stock's at $4 per share. Like, is it really worth going out and buying puts on AMC after it's fallen this much? A stock can only go to zero. A stock can go up, right, to infinity. So yeah, this makes sense. You have a put to call ratio, a volume of 0.16. About 5 times as many calls being bought for every one put. Again, 86.31% calls and 13.69% put activity today. 3 orders totaling about $91.35 thousand with a positive order value of 0% as far as the hedge fund institutional option activity. 12.22% short interest of free float, $140 million worth of short positions. Days to cover, 1.82. 30.61 million shares that are currently sold short. Shares out on loan, 32.65 million. Cost to borrow, 1.02%. Utilization of 49.6%. And a short score of 64.05 out of 100. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this video. Hit that like button as well as subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think about this information down below in the comments section. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.